3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash. Here is today's comic, Hawkman. Number 16. Year of the Villain, Evil Unleashed. Oh, noes! Alright, so as you know, if you've been following my channel, I am a massive fan of the new Hawkman run by Robert Venditti. Issues 1 through 12 of this run are as good as any comic I've read in a long time. It's fantastic. Now, I just talked to a Twitter, I don't know what you call him, a follower, of a gentleman named Cambot1138. And I don't know if he's ever going to watch my videos. I don't know. But he made a comment to me that he bought the first trade paperback on my recommendation, and he didn't get that much into it. And that kind of bummed me out because this book is so good. I want everyone to enjoy it on the level that I did, especially if you spend money on it. But also, it bears informing you of something. If you have not read this book, you're looking to get into it, first of all, the first story arc is actually issues 1 through 7. The second story arc is issues 8 through 12. Now you can see that's not very balanced. And if you're going to do 2 trade paperbacks, you're just going to do 6 and 6, not 7 and 5. Unfortunately, since this book's not written for the trade, and DC doesn't know what the hell they're doing, you get shortchanged. So you buy the first trade, and you get 80% of the story. And then the ending is left out. And so you're going to read it, and you're going to have a head scratcher, because the first 6 issues are all set up. It's all there to build to something and give you this payoff. It's like reading the first half of a good novel and then stopping. A lot of times that first half is all build up to get you into the characters, to get you into the setting, to get the plot going and put all the pieces into play. Hawkman is kind of like that. Just like Doggo over here. Always waits until I start the reviews, and the camera's rolling, and he's like, oh, time to get on camera. Apparently, doing comic reviews is thirsty work. Speaking of which, let me introduce my co-host here. I got Stan the Man, as always, channel intern and resident movie superstar, Forky, of the big hit Toy Story 4. And it's because it made me think of the drink that Stan always gives me. So, back to what I was saying. If you read issues 1 through 6, this is going to read like standard comic fare. Hawkman's having some adventures. He's doing his archaeology thing. He's talking to some of his, not side characters, but like supporting cast characters. And you're just going to be like, okay, he's on this MacGuffin quest to find something. And then you hit issue 7, and Robert Venditti redoes the origin of Hawkman, and it shines a light on his past that no one ever knew. You're like, what? And it's a big like, oh, damn. And that's the book that made me love Hawkman. That's the book that I was like, okay, this isn't just some stupid wing guy with a mace, with a dumb costume. And yes, I'm saying I do not like Hawkman's costume. It does look better to me now that I like the character and the story, because I'm biased. But, okay, what have you. Issue 7, it's a fantastic origin story. That got me hooked. That just sunk it into me, and I was like, oh, yes, give me more. And then issues 8 through 12 was like Return of the Jedi, right? It was just like, oh, you saw the first 2 Star Wars movies? You like that? All right, prepare for awesomeness. Now it's just the massive grand finale ending, and it was awesome. It choked me up at points. It was heroic. Man, I don't want to spoil anything for you. I already have on my channel, but if you're just coming in now and you're reading like, oh, Hawkman, what's going on with Hawkman? Why is he still talking about this book? That's why. Issues 1 through 12, if you get the first trade paperback, don't stop there. Find a way to read issue 7. If you still don't like it after issue 7, if you're just like, it's still not for me, okay, fair enough. You get the first chunk of the story, but don't stop and don't judge it off those first 6 issues, right? It won't live up to the hype that I'm putting. Anyways, so here we are past that now. The big, massive story is over, and we've had some one-offs, and now we've got this Year of the Villain stuff, which I think is just polluting most of the DC universe right now. I don't think anyone's really happy with this event. I've said my piece on it. Maybe I'll say it again in a future video. I don't want to say it every video. I'm okay with the event in concept. I like that it's very unintrusive. Oh, but Ash, what are you talking about? You said it's polluting. Well, yes, because it's just making writers have to write this nonsense stuff instead of the stories that they would want to do. But I would be buying Hawkman anyway. When I say non-intrusive, it's not like the Marvel thing, like Absolute Carnage, where it's like there's 10 new #1 series that you have to buy to buy into the Absolute Carnage. 10 new series. It's like, no. That's no. I'm okay. I'm buying Hawkman anyway, and there's a big event going on, and Hawkman's part of it, and I buy, okay, I'm cool. But it just needs to be executed better. Maybe the best is still to come. This is not the best. So we open up, and there's this new character to me. He's an old DC character, apparently. Shade, who Hawkman's partnering with. And I love that Hawkman has been sort of framed as history's detective. You got Batman, who's like the world's greatest detective. Hawkman is like history's detective. He's always going off these past lives, and he's discovering things in history. And he's an archaeologist by trade. So he's like a superhero. It's like if Indiana Jones was like, if that was his secret identity, but his real identity, he was a superhero. It's like that's what kind of Hawkman is. And also, not only is he a superhero, but if Indiana Jones had lived all these past lives, so part of the things he digs up in archaeology are things that are tied to him. He's got these like suppressed memories. He doesn't remember everything from his past life. Anyway, blah, blah. Moving on. Starting off. And I like how Venditti writes this too, like he's reading from a journal. So you got these narration boxes, but it's Carter Hall's journal of perhaps previous lives. I tracked Gentleman Ghost to his hideout in the ruins on an abandoned castle north of London. You cads, you are no match for the specter of skullduggery. Ha 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 ha. Unexpectedly, I was aided by another man. I'm uncertain if he's friend or foe. His name is Richard Swift. He calls himself the Shade. Darkness within, old ghosts. So we know that Hawkman had met Shade in the past. This cane was a gift, which we'll see. London, British Museum, 1948. Hawkman is... I can't tell here. This is probably the problem with the art. I can't tell if he's right. I'm assuming he's writing in the journal. But it could be clear. Shade describes himself as a thief, like Gentleman Ghost. Yet he has a certain charm and etiquette. I believe there's more to the man than pure villainy. He wields terrible power over shadows themselves. No! Yeah! But when given the chance to rend Gentleman Ghost's phantasmic form, Swift blanched and showed mercy. The killing stroke wasn't in his heart, as though his power is terrible even to him. I believe Swift might be good. A call to meet at noon, or at least he could be if someone guides him towards a proper path. You wouldn't be aiming to chase the shadows away, would you now, Mr. Hall? Only hoping to rid the chill of that dank and dreary castle. Please call me Carter. And you may call me Richard. We should be at least on first names before the Bobbies join us. That is what this is about. With the ghost of Jim Craddock chased off, I've outlived my usefulness to you. Off to jail I go. This isn't how I operate, Richard. If it were, I wouldn't have revealed my identity, and I would have clapped you in irons myself. No police assistance required. I'd believe I'd like to see you try it. I give up then. Why am I here, Carter? I wanted to say thank you. A memento of our adventure. So this is in the past, when they did the Gentleman Ghost, and it shows where he got the cane, which we saw earlier in an issue. And then it's going to jump back to the present in the Shadowlands where the last issue left off. And Shade is helping Carter. Both of their shadows have been stolen by Shadow Thief, and they're in this weird dark land. And Hawkman can't fly because Shade has advised him that in this land things work differently, and it's safer not to fly or whatever. And they have a lot of really, this book is a lot about the dialogue. So it's very hard, unless I just read it to you, to kind of explain what it's coming from. But I gave you a sample in the beginning. So now Shade is kind of doing world building for the viewer. He's telling you what the Shadowlands are, what Shadow Thief is doing. It's all being explained so you, the reader, understand who Shadow Thief is, how he's able to do the things that he's doing, what this land is about, and more importantly, why Shade insisted that they go to the Shadowlands in the first place. He says, shadow matter becomes completely tangible in this realm. It can always be touched. And that which can always be touched can be hit. I like it. So he says, do you now? We've battled at each other's side many times. When you've been around as long as we have, it can't be avoided. But I don't remember you relishing it quite so much. So at this point, Shade starts noticing that something's different about Hawkman. Something's wrong. But they put it aside, and he says, right now, we may well need a Hawkman who's a bit unhinged. It appears Shadow Thief has been busier than we knew. So many shadows stolen from the living realm, corrupted at his hand. Yet I don't sense ours amongst them. And then you can just see, I'll blow this up here, just all the shadows. Just immense. So Hawkman is undeterred, says nothing we can't break, and they go down to face the shadows, to which Shade is like, I am master of shadows, monarch of these lands, obey the Shade. And all the shadows congeal together and form. And he says, what are they doing? What did you do to them? And he says, nothing. Despite my efforts, they don't appear to be in a listening mood. And then he's like, and he comes down, something's affecting him. Shade, are you all right? Hardly. I believe we've answered the grand question. And you get this big 2-page spread of the dragon. The Shadow Thief's power is without limit. So earlier I didn't cover this, but Hawkman had asked him, what's the limits to Shadow Thief's power, and And he answers that there is no limit. So they all form this massive dragon, and he just, damn telemarketers or robot callers, whatever. That's all I ever get on my phone these days. And they always call during the most inopportune times. Don't they know I'm reviewing Hawkman right now? We're talking about... sorry for the interruption. So Hawkman shields them in his wings. Hawkman, the strain, I'm weakened. Rest, then. I don't need your help, he says. And he goes into battle. You can't hide from me, Shadow Thief. And throws his mace, and it's Hawkman versus Dragon. And he just starts wailing, going to town. Unfortunately, like Shade had said, because the shadows are tangible in this realm, it gives Hawkman a fighting chance. He's like, you want a battle of blood? I began in blood. Which is a cool tie to his history that I talked about in issues 1 through 12. And then all of a sudden, shink, his mace changes. It's subtle, but not subtle. I had to sit here for a second and go, what's going on here? And he's like, my mace, but look at these big, brutal spikes. And it's like, Carter. And then Carter just starts, blood will be your end. And he just goes to town, just murdering this dragon. And then he calls out, Shadow Thief, you deserve what I'm going to do to you. And Shade then confronts him. And it's like, something's wrong, man. Like, you've never been this vicious. You understood that the creature wasn't technically alive, didn't you? Hawkman says, you're right. I don't feel like myself. But then he puts it aside. You're too weak to go on. Leave Shadow Thief to me. Do not talk down to me like a child. I'll come back for you when this is over. And then he's like, stop. There's something you must know. And of course, the nice comic trope there. He doesn't get to know. And then he crashes in. Now Shadow Thief's talking about, like, he's coming to me. This isn't supposed to happen. I'm the master. And then Hawkman shows up and he says, let's see who's the master. Next, villain takeover. So that is it. That is it. Look at that. There's Hush. And it's a quick comic. It's very I want to say basic, but I feel like that makes it sound bad. This isn't a bad comic. Now, I'm not a big fan. What's his name? Olaf? Is it Steve Olaf? Pat Olaf? Yeah, Pat Olaf. Here's the credits. Tom Palmer, inker, Jeremiah Shipper, colorist, and of course Robert Venditti. It's like I feel like his pencils are okay. Tom Palmer's inks are very scratchy, sketchy. I like clean inks. I think that's really the way comics should be inked. It makes it look kind of dirty. Again, it's not totally awful. It's just not impressive. It's just very passable. And I know Hawkman doesn't sell that much. So what are you going to do? You're going to take what you can get. But if I'm talking about the book, I got to be fair on all points. It is a bit of a detraction to me. Brian Hitch is very missed. I don't know what happened to Will Conrad. I thought he was taking over the book. So here we go. We're going to have to live with it. Be that as it may, like I said, the story is basic, but it's not... I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that it's not like your Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, obviously. It's not like your Scott Snyder books. This is just a more standard... I almost said down to earth. It's obviously not down to earth, but it's your more standard comic book story of a hero on an adventure. Some of the writing in this and the story structure reminds me of like old school, Silver Age or maybe even Golden Age, but yet including some modern writing sensibilities, like the way incorporates the journal as the narration. Some of the dialogue with each other feels a little bit more the way modernized dialogue is, not so stilted and dry. But it's kind of a blend between the two. And I really, really like, I'm talking about the pencils. It's just like, this is very like something I'd expect from a Dark Horse book maybe, but whatever. I don't want to harp on that. But I really did enjoy this. I wasn't sure where this is going when it started off with the Shadow Thief arc. It seemed like, oh gosh, here we go, the Year of the Villain thing. And but I don't know. Shadow Thief's an old school Hawkman villain. I don't know the character. I'm really curious to see what Venditti's going to do with them. And I'm still along for the ride. One of the things about ongoing comic books is you can, but you shouldn't just bail anytime the story takes a little bit of a lull. And especially with Hawkman, issues 1 through 12 were so stellar. Of course, the next follow-up was going to be a lull compared to that. The bar is too high. This is still a very solid book. I recommend it, but if you're going to jump in, don't jump in here. Get those 1 through 12s. Get the 2 trades. Borrow them. Or if you've got the budget, buy them. Check them out. It's a solid story on its own. It has a solid ending at 12. So even if you're just like, well, I don't really want to continue with Hawkman, you're still going to have you can treat it like a miniseries. Very self-contained, Brian Hitch art all the way through. So anyways, enough of those books. This is about this book. And that's pretty much all I have to say on it. It's still going. I'm looking forward to the next issue. I hope this book has a long life and many, many more issues to come. And Venditti is just really one of the most underappreciated writers in all of comics right now. So thank you for watching, getting this far. Stan, thank you for joining me and, bringing me to this great, great hobby that is comics, teaching me about heroes, life lessons I need to learn. Forky, thanks for being the example of someone who's learned life lessons and the value of yourself and life. And thank you guys just for being cool, talking in the chat, joining me on Discord, doing that sort of stuff. I've met some really nice, fun people, and you guys make it all worth it. So thanks again. I'll see you next time. Take care.